That's going to hurt you on that one. It's not going to hurt on this one. It's the whole point.
All right, I'm Chris Duffy at Conte's Bike Shop. I am the director of merchandising for Conte's Bike Shop. I buy all the bikes, and I'm the director of our fit program.
I'm Matthew. I'm from Lexington, or Lexington location. I'm a full-time bike fitter, and I'm an ambassador for the company.
We're going to talk today about two really awesome Cervélo bikes, two of the new Cervélo bikes. We've got the Cervélo S5 with the Red Axis Explorer 1x,
And the R5 with also the Red Axis Explorer 1x.
So these are two, obviously, the two new top-of-the-line bikes from Cervélo, two top-of-the-line race bikes. They occupy two different lanes. There's been a lot written and talked about in the past since the tour, basically about lightweight or aero versus lightweight versus aero. And Matthew and I spent time on both of these bikes. We wanted to sort of quickly talk about them and give you guys some of our insights if you're considering one of these two options. I'll start with the S5. So I've been riding this bike more or less exclusively since it launched in June or July. I've had it everywhere from here, we're in beautiful Williamsburg, Virginia, where it's flat and rolling, up to the gravelly mountains in Vermont and mountains in New Hampshire and all around. And I got to say, I think as has been written, it is a surprisingly versatile bike. The last generation of S5 I rode was probably a couple of generations ago, and that was really definitely a aero road bike, right? It was heavy. It felt dead. Didn't feel like a very spirited ride. It wasn't a super inspiring bike. You didn't step on it and didn't feel like it wanted to go. This bike, I think in large part because of some of the weight changes that they've really lowered the weight. It is a snappy, fun road bike that happens to be really aero. One of the big surprises for me too wasn't just the weight. It is relatively light. I think all in, this bike was right around 16 pounds, 54 centimeter built up with pedals, which is pretty light for a 60 millimeter deep aero, or a bike with 60 millimeter deep wheels and built for speed. But actually, sort of the couple things that really surprised me that stood out was how comfortable it was. So it's still an aero road bike. It's not an endurance bike, but it is remarkably smooth. I've done a couple century distance rides on it, and in no time did I think, oh my gosh, this is way too rough. I'm sure some of that is attributable to the 29 millimeter tires that come on it that actually make it faster because of the wheels, but it's also just changes in frame design, changes in carbon layup since the last time I've ridden a truly dedicated aero bike. And the other really big surprise for me was actually the handlebars on this bike. When I had this bike, I got it and I had to drop the bars. I was pretty worried. I hadn't read anything. I was just sort of like, okay, I had my bleed tools out, I got my workbench out, my work stand out, and I thought it was going to be an hour or so of work. And I popped the cover off, and lo and behold, it's just a couple of simple spacers. So the bars on this bike, this is the easiest front end of any bike, not just aero road bike, of any bike I've ever dealt with. And so these two things were really shocking. But all in all, I mean, who's this bike for? This bike is for anyone that wants to just go fast, and that's sort of the big thing for me. Is the previous bike I was on was the Super 6 Evo Lab 71, very fast all-rounder bike. And this bike, really, I can't say there was a place where this. I was wishing I had the S5, the Super 6. I'm sorry. So where I said, man, I'm climbing up a mountain and I wish I had the Super 6, or man, I'm on a technical, gravelly road. I wish I had the Super 6. This bike really does everything really well. And best thing for me is that when I'm in a fast group ride here, where it's rolling terrain, it's just free speed, and you really feel it. You really feel it. When you crest a small climb and it flattens out, you can really just feel how quickly this thing gets from 22 to 23 to 24, 25 miles an hour. It's pretty remarkable. So that's who's it for? It's just for people who want to ride fast. If that's what you're looking for, it's a rocket. But okay.
Let's go. All right, so now on to the R5. Chris has spent a lot more time on this than I have, but my initial impressions of this bike were that of lightweight road bikes of years ago that we really haven't seen much of because there's been this big focus on aero, and going faster is great, but bikes like this, what really stands out immediately is just the bike wants you to ride it. It's screaming for you to just stand on the pedals, and the bike will just dance under you. And it brings back a childhood joy of riding a bike that I actually haven't felt on any road bike I've ridden in the last probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, the way I describe it is, this is if the S5 is a physics problem or a math problem, this is a philosophy. This is a, you know, it's
Poetry.
philosophy. It's poetry. It's
Yeah.
a book of poetry. That's perfect. It's a book of poetry. And you know, it is a bike. This is if you ride to ride fast, the S5 is your bike. If you ride because you just love to ride, we ride bikes like this because we love riding. Like that's as simple as it gets. Like my first impressions of this bike, I was telling Matthew, the first ride I did on this, it was sort of just a, you know, hilly up and down ride around Boston, and every single time the road turned up, I just attacked the hill. I just wanted to pedal hard, fast up the hill. And I got back and I realized I was a good half a mile an hour slower at about 20 watts more than on the S5, but I had a whole lot more fun.
Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely a slower bike, but it's just inspiring. You know, it inspires you like poetry. I mean, it is passion on two wheels. It's just such a fun bike, and of course, it's light. I mean, it's a, you know, out of the box, it's 13 something pounds. And so, you know, Matthew? Who do you think? I mean, who is the rider for this bike?
So I think it all depends on what you're wanting to do with your bike. I think if the actual numeric speed matters for you, if you're racing, if you're trying to keep up on the faster group rides, the S5 is the right bike for you. I do think when you're not at your peak, when you're not, you know, maybe life is busy for you, you might not be as fit as you once were. You don't want to get punished on a speed weapon. You want something that's going to, you know, meet you where you are on the day. That's going to feel lively, fun, and inspiring, regardless of how you feel. You're going to get on that bike, and it's going to meet you right where you're at. It's incredibly comfortable. So this bike is for anybody who is, you know, you don't have to be in a mountainous area, but maybe you're not racing. If you are in a mountainous area, it's even better.
Yep.
But if you're in a rolling to flat terrain, you're still going to have an amazing time on this bike. But it's not focused on all out
Yep.
speed, like
Exactly.
you said.
And that's, I mean, like to me, like when I think about this is the bike for people who, like, speed is everything, right? That's who this bike is for. This is a bike for folks who, yeah, if I lived in Tuscany or if I lived in Vermont, I would own this bike all day, right? Like this would be 100% my choice. If I was climbing every day, all of my rides were 100 feet of climbing per mile, I would be riding an R5, right? That's not what I'm doing. I'm riding mostly rollers. Even then, if I cared a little bit less, you know, modicum less about, you know, taking the random KOM or, you know, keeping my speed average
So
up,
type A.
right? If I wasn't so type A, right? Like this is the bike. This bike makes me happy, right? This is,
Yeah.
and it's not to say this bike doesn't. It's to say that like this bike reminds me of being, you know, 18 years old and getting on my bike and imagining that I was on the Champs-Elysees. Like that's this bike. It inspires me in that way, in a way that this bike just doesn't. This bike inspires me because I get on it and I know I'm going to be fast. This bike just, it makes you happy. Like that's, I feel like that's the easiest way to describe it,
Yeah.
for me at least.
Yeah, exactly. It just is cycling. It's passion in a perfectly light package. Yeah, I think that we've kind of summed it
Yep.
up. I
Yep.
think that these two bikes are really perfectly complementing each other. So if you can't decide, you have the means, you know, just get both. You'll have a perfect bike for any day, any ride. But you really can't go wrong with either of these bikes. Just you know, come into one of our locations and we'll kind of help you out, help you narrow it down a little bit, test ride both of them, figure out what works for you, come get a fit, and all that stuff will help narrow it down. And but really, you can't go wrong with any of these. They're awesome.
I should know too, from a fit perspective, they're pretty close. Relative to the biggest difference between the two is seat tube angle, right? So this guy's got a sort of the R5 tends to have a steeper seat tube angle, but all of Cervélo's actually done a really great job with fit. We were talking about the handlebars earlier, but all of their bikes are coming with shorter cranks, which is fantastic for fit. You know, they've really done a lot to modify on some of their bikes. They're using zero setback posts to bring the hips forward and open hip angle. So like, I think one of the biggest things is figure out, they're both going to be pretty close in fit, but like Matthew said, get in, work with a fitter, work with a salesperson, and really identify the right option and take them out for test rides.